This is Novichok, the deadliest chemical weapon ever created. Just a trace amount, delivered as a liquid, a gas, or an ultrafine powder, is potent enough to shut down your nervous system instantly.
Reports often describe that chemical substance causing sudden agony, spreading through the body, muscles locking while your mind stays awake. It's pain layered with terror because you can feel yourself losing control.
But it's not just its sheer toxicity that makes this nerve agent so lethal. It's its ability to go completely undetected. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union were in a constant race to outcompete each other on every front. Defense, spaceflight, nuclear weapons, and chemical warfare.
I heard the Cold War was less about battles and more about dominance. Whoever scared the other side without actually fighting was winning. A hot war is fought with soldiers and explosions out in the open. A Cold War is fought with pressure, weapons built in silence, and constant display of what could be done without ever doing it.
Two early variants, A230 and A232, were already the world's most advanced nerve agents. Designed to be undetectable by NATO sensors, resistant to standard protective gear, and stable as liquids, aerosols, or ultrafine powders, Novichoks could be weaponized for large-scale warfare in innumerable ways. And yet, the dose needed to eliminate their target was microscopic.
Between TSA scanners and chemical sensors, airports are built to catch threats. So if something this lethal slips through, it means it was designed around what those systems look for.
By the late 80s, animal testing had confirmed Novichok's devastating effectiveness, and even more advanced forms were being developed for use in combat. Still, no one outside the Soviet Union knew it existed, until the Soviet Union collapsed.
I'm pretty sure when people say the Soviet Union, they really just mean Russia running the whole thing. Like not just one country, but Russia basically calling the shots for mad other places too. That's right, Delante. The Soviet Union was Russia leading a group of countries under communist rule. Those nations kept their names, but the power and decisions flowed back to Moscow.
In 1992, Russia, newly formed and politically unstable, agreed to join the Chemical Weapons Convention, a treaty banning chemical weapons. They were desperate for international legitimacy, and by disarming, they could reintroduce themselves to the world not as a threat, but as a partner.
Novichok was built for a world that stopped existing. Once the Cold War cracked, they were left holding something for rules that were already gone.
However, just before they signed the CWC, two Russian scientists stepped forward and publicly revealed the Novichok program. Their timing was deliberate. They knew the Russian government wanted to avoid disclosing Novichok, and naturally, they denied everything. Months later, Russia joined the CWC. But in the mid-1990s, German intelligence obtained a sample of Novichok from a Russian source.
What's the point though? You wait till last second to blow the whistle? Then dip? What does that actually help at that moment? I don't really know the motive, but most whistleblowers talk when pressure gets too heavy to sit with. It's usually not about being brave. It's about not being able to stay quiet anymore.
Tests in Sweden confirmed its authenticity, and the information was quietly shared across NATO. According to the scientists who had exposed the Novichoks, the Soviet Union had developed them for warfare, but they were never actually used. At least, not for war. In Salisbury, England, 2018, a former Russian spy and his daughter were found unconscious on a park bench, foaming at the mouth.
I ain't gonna lie, history always shows when you labeled a spy, your own country sees you as a traitor. Off rip. That ain't my opinion. That's just how nations move when loyalty gets questioned.
Both of them survived, but investigators found that Russian agents had sprayed Novichok onto the front door handle of their home. Months later, a local man found a used perfume bottle from a donation bin and gave it to his partner. Neither of them knew the bottle contained the leftover Novichok from the previous attack. When she sprayed it on her wrists, she died within days, and even her husband was gravely affected.
What's wild is how Novichok ain't just poison, it's contamination. Touch a surface once, and it can linger and catch whoever comes after. It turns normal places into quiet hazards without anyone realizing. Yeah, and that's what actually makes it messed up to me. It don't end with the target. It keeps reaching forward, hurting people that were never even a part of it.
Across every one of these cases, there is a hauntingly consistent pattern. Victims are poisoned in the most ordinary settings. Trace amounts of Novichok are all it takes. And detection often comes too late, if at all. It's impossible to know how many other cases where exposure was fatal have gone completely undetected. And this is why Novichok is the perfect poison.
This stuff moved like an Assassin's Creed mission. No noise, no mess, just damage done before you even knew you were a target. That's the real definition of a professional hit, except it's the chemical pulling the trigger.
You'd think a substance this deadly would be easy to spot, but Novichok is designed to be the opposite. Undetectable, untraceable, and precise. Since the lethal doses are so small, even modern forensic tools struggle to detect them after use.
What makes Novichok especially alarming is how dose works at a microscopic level, similar to fentanyl. But unlike fentanyl, exposure doesn't require deliberate intake. It can enter through skin or air without warning. At least with fentanyl, hospitals got stuff on hand to reverse it if they move fast. With Novichok, most places ain't stacked for all that, so by the time they figure it out, you already running out of time.
But in reality, detection begins much earlier, at the point of creation. And even then, Novichok remains invisible. You see, the first versions of Novichok were what's known as unitary agents, fully formed compounds that are always active and ready to use. This makes Novichok deadly, but also unstable and dangerous to transport.
If it's deadly before it already leaves the lab, that's already a problem. That means the risk ain't an accident, it's baked in.
That's why during the Cold War, Soviet scientists developed a binary version. Instead of one active compound, Novichok could now be made from two separate, relatively harmless chemicals. Individually, these components can pass through borders, customs, or inspections without raising any eyebrows.
Kevin was right earlier. Security systems often look for active threats, not harmless parts waiting to be combined. By themselves, they pass unnoticed, but together they become something far deadlier than either ever was alone. So basically, if you catch one part by itself, it ain't doing nothing. But once they link up, it's game over. That's slick in the worst way. Nobody sees the danger because the danger don't exist yet.
Only when they're mixed, typically moments before use, do they become lethal. This binary design makes Novichok easier to smuggle, safer to handle, and far more difficult to trace, making it one of the most sophisticated weapons ever developed.
What messes with me is how many times this probably worked perfectly. Most of what we know about Novichok only exists because a few people survived.
Long-term nerve damage, lasting cognitive effects, and permanent health issues. And because Novichok is designed to be nearly undetectable, we may never know how many successful attacks have gone unnoticed. Survivors make headlines. Perfect assassinations don't.
The wild part is how one incident got people side-eyeing everyday stuff. Door handles, packages, random bottles. After that, normal life don't feel normal no more. Yeah, it turns everyday spaces into question marks. Not just who did it, but where else might something still be hiding?
However, perhaps the most concerning theory about Novichok is where it stands today. On paper, the program ended decades ago, and in 2017, Russia officially declared that it had destroyed all of its declared chemical weapons stockpiles, a claim verified by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. However, in 2020, when Alexei Navalny was targeted, multiple laboratories across Europe confirmed that the substance used to poison him was a new variant of Novichok.
When countries build weapons like this, it ain't always about using them. It's about making sure nobody tries you. So giving it up don't feel like peace. It feels like losing leverage even though you signed the paperwork.
One that had never been seen before. This does not prove that the program is still active, but it strongly suggests that someone might still be developing, refining, and using Novichok.
This is what deterrence really looks like in practice. You build something so advanced, its mere existence shapes behavior, even if it's never officially acknowledged or openly deployed. The danger isn't seeing it used, the danger is knowing it could be used, and nobody would see it coming.
If it still is being developed today, it would mean the world's most undetectable, most deadly poison is not a relic of the past, but a weapon being sharpened for the future. In war, things are never black and white. While the Soviet Union was developing Novichok, the United States was working on MK-Ultra.
MK-Ultra was a secret US program that tested drugs and psychological methods to control behavior during interrogations. It showed how far the governments were willing to go to break the human mind without ever firing a weapon.
A top-secret mind control program that was no less cruel.